candid conversations, unfiltered opinions, and humor with Avag Beck's podcast.
I'm very excited for this episode. This one is special to me. This particular one is very special to me. I have the pleasure of having somebody I respect a lot. Don is a serial entrepreneur, startup whisperer. He is a nice guy for real. And also is a leader of a local startup accelerator, Founders Institute, Keystone, which I happen to have graduated recently from. Thank you. It's an honor and pleasure to have Don on because we're going to keep it very light and useful as usual. A lot will be discussed. So if you are in the founder space, if you started a company, you're building something and you need that support because let's face it, a lot of us have expertise in whatever we have expertise in. But when it comes to running a company, starting a company and setting up right, sometimes we make very costly mistakes. So this will be that episode that you learn a few things from and how to find the resources or align yourself with an accelerator or a mentorship, whatever works for you. We'll cover that and also the other interpersonal things that are, useful on this journey. Don, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. When you're saying all these nice things, like, I fooled another one.
Oh, it's not true.
So yes,
Not true.
Yes, I think it was funny when you were saying we're going to keep it light. I wonder sometimes because I try to inject some humor, even in all these dry business discussions and so on. I feel anyway, some humor, and I have a chuckle. I crack myself up. We were talking right about some of the harder times in life and so on. And look, if you can, and sometimes it's maybe not appropriate. I'm not going to start a comedy routine at a funeral.
Right.
But I have been memorials and so on where, we started out very solemn and, later on there was a lot of laughter and smiles and so on. And sometimes like you almost catch yourself like, wow, like why am I being disrespectful? No, I pray that someday, hopefully long in the future, but hopefully if there are some people that are going to spend their time in some kind of memorial of some sort, right, that I hope there's lots of laughter and smiles. Like, oh, I remember the time that Don did this and that and the other. It doesn't help me if I'm gone. I learned a great lesson actually from my wife because I grew up with my mom, who's an amazing woman, but she lost her mom very young and her father also pretty young. And any time that they came up, within a minute, she would be choked up, crying, upset, whatever. So I didn't even realize, right? We don't realize our programming. I didn't realize that I was being programmed. And when I had losses, I grieved deeply. And then met my wonderful wife, who, came with two cats. And I definitely just took in the two cats as my furry children. And then when we lost one and then the other one in pretty rapid succession, I grieved deeply, and so did she. And then not that, like 6 months, a year later, she's like, well, I feel it's time. I want to get another cat. And, I was like, no, I'm not ready. She helped me realize that I had internalized the message that when somebody is gone, the way that you pay tribute to them is to weep and feel bad and feel that loss. And yes, you do want to have that. They deserve it, and you need that, right? But ultimately you want to get to a place where and I feel like hopefully I can honor my mother not by crying and whatever. I miss her terribly and so on, but she wouldn't. And I used to say to her, your mom would not want you to feel bad every time you think of her. She would want you to live your life, be happy. I try, as you can tell, still get emotional. It hasn't been that long. I only been a few years, and I miss my critters. I miss my humans. But ultimately, it doesn't do them any good if I weep for the next 24 hours. They're gone.
Yeah.
That pain and reliving that pain is not going to help them. To me, honor them, and someday if somebody digs this up and says, look, Don said don't cry for him, laugh, smile, be happy.
Yeah.
If you want to honor me by remembering me fondly, doing something good, nice for somebody, some random act of kindness, that'll make me happy, right? I learned relatively late in life, I think, especially living in New York for quite a while and driving in New York, where you don't put on your turn signals on, because that's just a signal for somebody to block you, right? Aha, he's going to try and turn. I got to get in there and block. It's used to tell the story when I would go to Toronto a lot. I'd go New York, Toronto, and so on. And I'd land and I'd get my rental car and I'd get to the highway from the airport to go into the city. And I would not signal and I would go and I would accelerate to go quickly. And after a few minutes, when they actually let me in, I was like, oh, Don, you're in Toronto. It's different. And so then I would signal and people would let you in. And so, right, and then I'd come back to New York and I'd be in Toronto mode and I'd put on the signal and go to Miriam's. I was like, back to the dog eat dog, cab
Yeah.
driver, whatever. What it's worth, if you're in traffic and you're sitting there anyway, and you see somebody trying to get out of a driveway or whatever, try it just a few times. You're in traffic anyway. It's
Yeah.
not going to make a difference. Stop, flash, wave, so on, and let them in. And if you're lucky and you're close and you can see like the surprise, but then the smile and the wave and the whatever, and he's like, you just improved that person's day. You saved them a few minutes of struggling to get into traffic. You made them feel good. It's like, oh, some nice person did something, and you elevated their day. And now it's like you get a win. You get this, I'm such a good person, whatever. You did nothing. It really wasn't a big, but you can carry that for the rest of the day. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm a good person. Like I did something. And that kind of karma, right?
Yeah.
If we did more of that, just the stupid random acts of kindness. And we were talking earlier about it was no big deal. We were already at an event. Right? We were there. I had spoken many times at the event. I was a shy geek once upon a time and so on, and eventually was dragged out of my shell and so on, but learned to put on, right? Many of us are, shy internally. You learn to put on this gregarious whatever when you need to, the salesmanship. So when I pulled you up at that event, got you out of your comfort zone, and then you presented, and that was not a not an effort for me, right? It wasn't hard. It was just for me to say, oh, got this, nice new friend. Right? We didn't know each other that well yet. This new friend, I can maybe help her get introduced and meet some people and so on. Again, we were talking about, I felt good about it, and I feel so good about it that it helped you, because then having done that, having faced that fear and gotten up, it's like, hey, the world didn't end. I was able to speak and feel good about it, and then people knew who I was, and so I was, and then you went and you did it solo when you were by yourself,
Yeah.
and now you have a new skill and new stuff, and the you just reached out on LinkedIn to some people, which I would have helped with or whatever, but you did it yourself and you reached, and lo and behold, like, again, I mean, if you spam something, I mean, even when people spam me, like, I just ignore it. There's no point unless they were really horrible.
Right.
But I see the spam and okay, look, you're trying to make a living, you're trying to sell something. Fine. So how often, and occasionally you do get a lunatic, so you deal with it. But for the most part, it's amazing how a polite outreach that is clearly targeted, like, hey, I know who you are. I'm reaching out. This is not cut and paste 10,000 spam messages. I know that you make widgets and I would really love to work with you on these widgets or get a discount or tell you that I think your widgets should come in purple or whatever it is. You'd be amazed at the people, the titles. We look at these titles and we can't bother the CEO. Why not? What's the worst? The worst thing that's going to happen usually is you just get ignored. But what happens is people responded to you kindly, which was nice, and helped you, shared with you, and then amazing. It's just amazing what good people will occasionally. Can I make an introduction? Can I help you? Can I? What can I do for you? Let's collaborate on something. It's just when that stupid little voice says, "Oh, don't get out of your comfort zone. Don't do it." It's easier to watch TV or eat something or go to sleep or do something or send a message to somebody because that's safe and easy. Think about, I want your listeners to think about it. Say like, that pasty old dude on the podcast said something interesting. Let me try. Let me not listen to that voice. Let me get out of let me try. And see that you get some great results. So I've been rambling for a while.
The rambling is actually needed. This is Don Samoil, everybody. And made the 4.5 months. He was one of the people, I should say, that made that 4.5 months in that accelerator. It was an accelerator and it accelerated on all cylinders. Yeah. Still kind of like having the whiplash from it. So Don is one of those people that made that experience human. What you hear from him is just who he is. He comes as pure as he is. He will support you. There's an analogy that I use with Ken and Millie. It's that scolding and hug analogy. In the Nigerian household, most of us are used to the unexpected backhand from your mom. When you have people who have guardrails for you, however, take those guardrails off and trust you to just go for it. So Don, you have been one of, and this is not just unique to me. I know my other cohort colleagues feel the same way about you. You have a way of putting the human in this very rigid program of sort that really brings founders to deal with the real world stuff. It's not easy. Yes, I'm a professor. I stand in front of people and I've delivered speeches and all of that stuff. I can do that. However, finding myself in the tech space was new. And the room that Don is talking about it wasn't just a room, okay? You're talking a room full of multi-billion dollars and big faces, I call them. People that have done the thing, people that have had the experience, people that have heard pitches, like about maybe 100, 200 a day. I don't know. I don't know how many pitch decks they've seen in a given week. But when you're in a space like that and you recognize the caliber of people in that space, it doesn't matter how much you know who you are. It gives you a little bit of butterflies. I wasn't expecting to go on stage that day. We attended a few events. The first was like the legal event. I forget the name of the legal group. Then we went to the second event.
Yeah, it was Fred Wolf. I'll give him a plug or whatever. I forget the name of his firm.
I learned a lot. And this is a law firm in Philadelphia, right? And they specialize and they're very plugged into the software space, especially when it comes to generative AI and companies around that actually build in that space. So if you're anybody in the Northeast or in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area who's looking for a law firm that can help you or at least pull the weeds apart on what is considered IP and what you can trademark. They are supremely plugged in. I learned a lot from that meeting. So going back to the event, I went to this event with Don. Did not expect to stand up in front of big faces to pitch, but here Don is like, go for it. You can do it. And I did. scary, but I did it. And then I think it was the very next week, 2 weeks after that event was New York Tech Week. And I went to New York Tech Week and I did it. And I was so excited to send you that message. So, I can't thank you enough how you make this experience human. You just shared about your mother, you shared about your cat and letting go. And I know that is the one thing that even the keynote speaker at the graduation spoke about that. Letting go, sunsetting that feature as a founder, that darling feature that you have on your whatever it is that you're building, sunsetting it because it's not about the product, it's about your customers. You thought this thing was so great, it was the best thing ever. However, most of your customers don't want it. So that story, however personal, for me, it spoke to that sometimes you just gotta let go and honor things for what they were so that you can really hone in and focus on the present, the positive, and what is really going to keep you going. And grief usually is not it. A lot of us founders have a way of like latching on with that grip on beloved features. So do you see a parallel there? Because that's the parallel it drew for me.
Thank you. No, I agree. I do see a parallel, and you kind of triggered a thought with me. That's why I was looking at my phone. There's a picture that I took because I was going to send. So that's me Thursday in a class with 15 women, and I don't think there was a guy. Usually there's maybe another guy, sometimes two, but
Yeah.
most of the time it's me and a dozen to 15 women in this boot camp class that my friend teaches, which is a fantastic class. Jen Penna at the Ambler Y every Thursday morning. And I was amused because I've gotten to the point, but the more you push yourself out of your comfort zone, right, the more it's not easy, but the more you get used to it and the more you then get the gratification. So to your point, I love what you said. You're a professor. You could, I mean, in the right context, and I knew that, you had it in you. I wouldn't have dragged somebody that would have up on the stage. Right? It's like she has this, it's just this particular context.
Yeah.
So the same 10 years ago, I was in um, a boxing class with primarily other guys, and we saw one of our associates who had been in the class in one of these rooms at the gym. A class, they're different. I'm using the same terminology for different experiences here, so it's hard for people, but bottom line is, for most of older guys, I think things have changed over the decades, but I came in a time when the world was starting to change. I was just relating not too long ago about how when my second grade teacher came in to the class, and we said, "Good morning, Miss," and she said, "From now on, I want you to, call me Ms. whatever." And we all started giggling. Ms. whatever. Nobody'd heard that. It was invented in 1970 something. Because it used to be that men were Mr. whatever, even if you were a young boy or maybe master, but that was back in British days. Like they in the household, they would call something Little Master Joe or whatever, right? But typically a male was a Mr. and a female was a Miss or a Mrs. And that's just what we grew up with. I certainly at the time as a child didn't really think about it, but the feminist movement at the time was say, well, wait a minute. Why is the honorific that is being used for me different based on my marital status? I'm a human being. Um, may or may not be relevant, right? What my marital status is, but certainly my title shouldn't reflect that. When we heard that, we all just giggled because it was a new term. It was, completely new and different. But so I grew up with a different world, right? Where it was nice that men and women, if not on equal footing, because I know, right, that the world still has, there's lots of differences, but the mindset had changed. It wasn't that, I feel blessed, and I feel like most of the people I know anyway. I'm an early Gen Xer. We used to refer to ourselves as tweeners, right? Because we were in between the baby boom, the end of the baby boom, and the beginning of Gen X. And so those of us in that particular have some interesting, demographic characteristics. Because we're part of that transition, we understand the old school thought, and that a lot of it wasn't, even if it wasn't nice or good or productive. And I experienced this with family and the older generation that would, you know, meet a younger woman, especially, and call her dear or honey, or
Yeah.
pat her on the head,
Right.
and they didn't mean anything wrong. They were being affectionate or kind from their perspective, and did not realize how the young women. But I also had a foot in the Gen X, where the young women were like, hey, grandpa, I'm here to work. I don't want to be called dear and honey, and I'm not going to make your coffee, right? I'm a professional. I want to be treated as a professional. And so I understood that some things you say and do will, and I know my wife reminds me all the time, you shouldn't have said that. You could tell, right? I don't censor myself because I put it out.
I think that is the relatability that I think you had. We talked about this before we actually started recording. And the first thing I said to you, I made a joke. You laughed. And this was basically how the whole time we've known each other, even through Founders Institute, I don't know how you ever took me seriously. And you said, who said I ever did, right? We are in this super serious environment, super focused, so stressful, right? And then I come on the call and it's time for me to pitch and I say something silly and I can see you laughing and the stress goes away. I'm like, okay, you got this. Don just laughed. You laughed. Others cracked a smile. I don't know, I feel people that are very stone-faced, and that's fine. We're talking and you're putting all these life experiences into things. And it may sound like rambling, but these are the kinds of conversation that just help to just drop my shoulders a little bit. For those of you who don't understand, we had epic sprints. I have somebody that is now scarred from the word epic. We had epic sprints that literally I had to close laptops, walk around, just basically, spin, then come back to it. And then you had this 1 minute, 3 minutes, and 5 minutes pitches. And you had several reviews of your pitch deck. And these were not nice. Okay. So for me, I need a sanity. And Don, with everything you know and everything you've done and everything you've experienced, for me, my gratitude is thank you for bringing the human into that space, because it is a pretty serious space. It's a space where, business setup, liabilities, and and being taken seriously, outreach, all of these things, pitching, lots to learn, lots to do, lots to grow from. And you always had that human side, even when you were being critical. I think just having a good mix of people in a space, in an accelerator, is great. And I lead with jokes. One is an icebreaker. Two, it helps ease into the space. What is your take on having a mix of personality? Everybody can't be you. Everybody can't be Bill. Everybody can't be Ken. Everybody can't be Millie. Everybody can't be Barbara Ann. Everybody can't be Lacey.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your take in different personalities within an ecosystem or within an accelerator? And what should a founder do? Because it can be jarring. It can be disorienting. To really find yourself through this process, really, what should a founder do? Because with all this personality comes different opinions and different ways people see things. So what would your advice, in a sense, or your pointer to a founder who may find themselves in an accelerator with, say, different personalities and different people?
It's a great question, and it actually, brings me back to, when I got a little off top, where I was going was that there was a time I grew up with real men didn't do gym classes. Real men went and they lifted weights or they punched something.
Just my intrusive thought when you were telling that story, guys. Don Samoil is not a short man; he's really tall. So I'm imagining this man, very tall human being, with women. he's stuck out like a really sore thumb.
Exactly the point, right? And I went into a class and eventually I saw this guy, and that's, I guess, so funny because there are times when I forget that a lot of things, we have a lot of mental barriers. And maybe if I hadn't seen the guy in the class, I was real men don't do the. One of the things I'll say, always question your programming, question your assumptions, which is great for a startup and for yourself in life. When you say like this pen is going to fall, well, yeah, we all know gravity and so on, but you know what? It's not going to hurt you. Say, well, what if it didn't? What if it fell up? Right? Because you never know. You will find yourself in situations in life when you say this is going and it goes up. What the hell?
Right.
Question all of your assumptions. Don't be an idiot. But this is what pisses me off sometimes about people. It's settled science. Everything we consider settled science was exactly the opposite of what we said, 50 years ago and 100 years ago. And in 10 years, we'll say, oh, we were so foolish and so on. We didn't realize that, actually in some circumstances, gravity goes the other way. We just haven't. Anyway, question these assumptions. I went and I pushed myself and I went into the class and ended up, long story long, in this class with a whole bunch of women. Yes, so the one big guy, and typically some women somewhere between, I'm 6'2", and so everyone was somewhere between 5'2" and 5'8" or 5'10" or whatever, definitely standing out, and many of them in much better shape. Right. So here I am huffing and puffing and struggling. I felt so. Question these things, push yourself, give yourself credit and give yourself the grace to say, like, it's okay if you feel uncomfortable. It's okay if you feel that all these women are looking at this dopey old dude trying to do these exercises, and give yourself, again, the space to be you and to succeed on your own terms. Because I could see a whole bunch of people, and some women that were older and less fit and so on, that were not doing as much as I did, but plenty of them were jumping and kicking. And I was like, okay, there's no way I couldn't have done that when I was younger. Certainly can't do that today. That's okay. And they're not looking, they have much better things to do than sit and look at you. And again, and so that's where, as a founder, and you have every excuse, right? I'm an immigrant. I don't have the American whatever, or a knowledge of female, color, accent. You make all the excuses that you want, and they're legit, right? But I would hope, I could be wrong, but I know, to your point about the diversity and so, when you came into my room, there's enough. Again, there was a world when it was not so kind, and there are still plenty of assholes. You can bleep that if you
No,
want.
we're not.
But there's enough of us
Yeah.
at this point, I think. So look for them. Go into a room. Don't assume that this pasty old white guy doesn't like you. Say, maybe he doesn't know me. Maybe he doesn't know how to talk to me or understand me. Hi, nice to meet you. And see, because if I hear somebody, as you could tell, if there was somebody in which we've built an amazing founder keystone. You mentioned we got all the colors of the rainbow, right? In that group, in that room. To me, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say vanilla because percent of all the ice cream is plain vanilla. But to me, if you always like, I want Rocky Road and chips and nuts and so on. I love that diversity, and that's what I love about what we built in our chat. Is I don't care what your background is, what you look like, sound like, physically, mentally, so on. If you come with something good to contribute, or you just want, you don't contribute, but you're just open and you want to be part of this community, love it. Add some flavor. I don't want vanilla. I want all the colors of the rainbow and all the flavor. To me, that's fun and interesting. And so don't assume, even people don't look like, right? So I went into that room and I just realized at some point, the first impulse is they're all looking at me like, they don't give a crap. 20-year-old young woman who is in great shape, get over yourself. Like if I had any illusions that like, oh, she's probably looking at my she's looking at this guy reminds me of my grandpa or my uncle. She's not looking it's like, ooh, I'd love to go on a date with that guy. No, sorry, buddy. Get over yourself. But the other thing is she's there to have a workout, have some fun,
Right.
get herself into shape or whatever.
Right.
She doesn't care after the first minute of assessing who you are. She's forgotten you. We could bump into each other and she may or may not, again, because I was that one guy in that room, I would stand out.
No. So what
Typically,
exactly hiding, Don?
but typically she would have long forgotten, like if I was just one guy in a crowd.
Yeah.
So, but I've made friends. So as I go week after week and people see that and I am me. I put it out there like, hey, I'm gonna huff and I'm puffing and I struggle and I can't do as much as some of the others. And more than we're all going through this experience together. We're all trying to get fit. And just the same way I would, bring this back to the accelerator, right, is find a place and there, again, it may not look like it. So don't assume, don't jump to conclusions. FI is hard and there's lots of structure and so on, but don't assume like, oh, it's too hard, it's too structured, especially since we offer a 3-week, dropout, right? So you said there's people that join the cohort, found that it's not my cup of tea. That's cool. They've stayed friends. I'm happy to help them. Wow, I learned a lot. I learned that I'm not ready. I need more money. I need a co-founder. I need to pivot. Like the features that I was in love with are not what the market wants. I need to go back to the drawing board. And they're going to come back in this next cohort. There's some of the dropouts that are coming back because they now fixed some of the problems. So now they're ready for this experience. So yeah, I guess the moral of the story is don't let that bad voice, try to find the good voice that says, give it a shot, try, give this experience a chance, give this human a chance. You walk into, and I know, so I know it's not quite the same. I get it. My wife is a pioneer. She was in financial services 30 some years ago when she was a young woman in a room with old men that basically were like, hey, honey, go get me coffee. It's like, no, I'm a peer. I'm not your peon. She lived with that crap.
Peon. I love it.
Yeah.
Nice. Let me write that down. Keep talking, Don.
Thank you. I came up with that. So if she tries to take credit, she didn't say that. I don't think she said that.
No, whether she said it or not. I love it. Thanks for coming up with it.
Sure, but that was certainly her attitude. And
Right.
I mean, I wasn't there, but I know who she, and I'm not making a direct parallel, but I understand the flavor a little bit of being the older, less in shape guy, because I was really out of shape when I started going to the gym. So I was really bad. Going into a room of fit women, I could have said, this bunch of fit women are going to look at me like, you don't belong here, get out of my room. But I didn't come at it with that attitude. I said, okay, they're going to laugh at me. They're probably laughing at me. And then I moved on to, they don't care. Don't get over yourself, and started working out. Some of them proactively came up, said, hey, nice to meet you. Or, hey, wow, that was a tough class, wasn't it? It's like, oh, wow, they're being friendly. And I've made friends. So if somebody says something racist, sexist, whatever, then just don't waste your time and energy on them. But don't assume that because you look different, sound different, act different, so on, that they're not going to, they could love you. I mean, I enjoy the stuff that you and your colleagues bring to the table it's a very small sample size, but every Nigerian woman I've ever met has been a pleasure. So there's something special about Nigerian women. I don't know. But at this point, if somebody says, hey, Don, I want you to work with this Nigerian. Yes, absolutely. I'd love to meet her. They're fun. I have had a lot of fun. I smile, I laugh. This thing, interacting with you Right? I don't know about you, right? The time that we're spending yip yapping, we're laughing, we're
Yeah.
smiling. I mean, it just when we get together virtually or in person, hopefully we accomplish something. But
We usually do.
we
We
have
do it in a
fun
fun
doing it.
way. I think that is the crux of this conversation. And I reached out for us to have this conversation because when you think about a mentor and a founder, is usually the serious kind of, interaction. Yes, I do have mentors within the Founders Institute that are, very structured. It absorbs easier. And it's the exact same way I teach. But from the first day I met you, thank you for being you. I just have to put that acknowledgement. Thank you for just being you and showing up as you. And it has been such a refreshing experience. And we get a lot accomplished, but we do so giggling. Even even when we met in person for the first time in Philly for Philly Tech Week, and we were in pretty serious rooms. However, we found time to joke as we were going from one program to the other. And I learned a lot from just that short meeting that we had, and just having those conversations that were very related to what was at hand, but in a very human way that you really segued into a lot of, relief that, hey, I am welcomed in this space. Because again, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished when you're in a new space and starting out something new, there's always that angst. And it is a great thing when you have support. And I thank you for being that support for me. So, it's really my letter of appreciation to you, Don, coming on and having this conversation with me. You didn't have to say yes, but I mean, it's me again. You knew you were going to laugh, so why not? So thank you. You made it bearable. You did. And I know whenever things were kind of like tough or I needed centering in a sense, I could always reach out, and you checked in too. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. I mean, it feels so good, right? To know that I had some small impact.
Not small impact. Just leave the small out, please.
Okay. I'll ta- I'll take that. I had a positive impact on you and your life. Definitely, I'm getting the whole rest of the day. I'm going to, walk on clouds. I'm going to be that much better and happier, and so just going about my life. Because hey, I did something. The fact that large or small, but if I had a positive impact on your life, good for me. Good for me, good for you for having me on and having the gratitude and sharing it with me. You've made my day better. And so this is what I try to preach to anybody that doesn't get it. It's like just be kind, be nice. Just share. Both of us hopefully are going to have a great day.
Yes.
And just because. Why not?
Why not? Thank you, Don. And I know we have a cohort, a Founders Institute Keystone cohort starting soon. So for the founders and people that are experts in whatever they do, how can anybody get involved? So if somebody's a founder, how do we get involved? And also if somebody is interested in being a mentor, how can they also get involved?
Thank you. I appreciate it because you mentioned some of the amazing mentors and they do so much and they're so kind and giving and helpful and so on. They're tremendous, tremendous people. So founderkeystone.com. And certainly if people can find me on LinkedIn or whatever, Don, there aren't a lot of Samoils out there. I'm certainly to my knowledge, the only Don Samoil in the world. Definitely reach out, find me. I don't know if you can put links in, for the podcast. Thank you, but would love to talk to anybody that's looking to explore entrepreneurship, even if you're not in Philly or I don't care where you are, what language you speak, whatever. I will find a few minutes, can't promise you hours, but I'll find a few minutes to talk to you about your idea, whatever. If I can help you in your entrepreneurship journey, pro bono, I don't need anything. Reach out, find me.
Thank you for that. Yes. And also Founders Institute is global. So the chapter that I graduated from is Keystone, which is the one Don is talking about. So
it's the best one, but the other
best
ones are
one.
good.
Yes, it is. The best, the absolute best one. Yes. So reach out. I mean, have a conversation. You heard it. He will make time to talk to you, whether it's about exploring entrepreneurship, you're building something, you like to be a mentor because you're an expert, and it's truly a diverse ecosystem of people, even within the mentorship and the people in the cohort, the founders. It's a lifelong connection. Even within a cohort, the people who stepped back because of life work or whatever, having to pivot, we're still in connection with them. So that's kind of environment that has been created. When we graduated, everybody reached out. Devon, that's his name, Devon. So Devon reached out, congratulated us. He pivoted. He went a different path. So it's an environment where people thrive, and it's an environment where you can find that mentor, the few mentors that understand and can advise you. And for any founder listening to me today, please understand not everybody will get it. So as opposed to focusing on the frustration of people who don't get it, find the people who get it, and that will be the win you need to keep you going. Don was one of those people for me. Barbara Ann, Juan, the names that I repeat, Millie, Chow, and Ken Franz. So these are people that have been those people for me, and many others that I'm not saying their names, where what I'm working on, my company, Altruistic Scribe, and my software, on from the very first day I spoke with you, you got it. And you're like, absolutely, I want to have you in here. So thank you for that. And people who understand the frustration of language limitation or having limited English proficiency in healthcare kept me going, even on the hard days, having to redo a lot of things. So please, ask questions, reach out. Keystone, from Founders Institute, Keystone, talk to Don. Don is on LinkedIn. He responds. So reach out. We'll make all those links available in the show notes. All right. Thank you. Don, again, I am appreciative. I am grateful. I am thankful. Having you in my founder's life has been life-changing. I don't have silver and gold yet, or diamond just yet, but when I do, you'll get a piece of it. So all I really can offer right now is my gratitude, and I mean that. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you bring. Having you as a new friend is more than enough. But when you become a unicorn, I will definitely take suitcase of cash and ride on your jet and your yacht and so on. So definitely, I will not say no.
Absolutely, and you better not. Again, in the Nigerian culture, you don't turn down a gift. That is something that you should know. So talking about Nigerian women, you do not ever say no to a gift. That is an insult. That is offensive. So you better not. Okay?
Good. Sold.
Great. So thank you everybody for being here and joining us on this conversation. And please, if you're a founder and you need that support, there are a lot of organizations and accelerators that are not far out of reach. This is leader in one of those accelerators that I benefited from. Please use the link we're going to provide, reach out, ask questions, inquire. There's a saying that closed mouths don't get fed. Please don't be a closed mouth. Okay. Open up, ask questions. You never know until you ask. All right. I hope you benefited from this. All right. Thank you everybody for listening to us. Have a great day. Thank you, Don, for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to AVICBEC's podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It really helps us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion. So join us on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep pushing the boundaries of your world.